Okay, once we decided whether we're collecting for whatever reason, if we're collecting for investment value and going up, and that's a whole other subject. But say we got some old guns and we want to shoot. Well, there's a cost involved in that also. And it's another thing you got to factor in. And I'll go over each one of these guns and give you a little bit about getting ammunition made for them and that. It's always more economical to reload your own ammo or learn, at least the basics. Like, we'll go with an easy one. The 88 commission rifles in the 8mm caliber. Brass is readily available. Reloading dies are anywhere from, if you go with Lee's, they're probably the least costly, to where you can get RCBS or Lyman dies for about $30 to $40 price range. And the dies are priced, the more common the caliber, the lower the price of the die is. Like all your World War II calibers, like the 7.7 Jap, the 8mm Mauser, 30-06, and that, are all pretty much priced the same, under $50 for a brand name like RCBS or Lyman. The Red Eags are, Hornet A's might be a little bit more expensive, and there's different features and different things you can get, but the more common the caliber, the less expensive the reloading equipment. And reloading a smokeless round or even cast bullets, in the 8mm, there's molds available. It's a common caliber. Getting into reloading for something like the 88 commission rifle isn't going to bankrupt you. Okay, so you're doing good there. Now we go to this French rifle in the 8mm Lebel. Now, 35 years ago when I was in high school, I still used to be able to buy 8mm Lebel commercially loaded ammo from old dealer stocks. Remington Arms made a bunch of these guns, plus Remington, and I believe most of the major manufacturers in the 50s and 60s still made ammunition, sporting ammunition for these guns. So Boxer Prime reloadable brass was there, affordable. And if you had one of these old guns, you went to a few gun shops, there were more of them too back then, and you'd always find a couple of boxes on a shelf somewhere. And there was no problem shooting them. Over the years, the 8mm Lebel was out of production until PPU in Yugoslavia started making it again, and was the first time in years that somebody was actually commercially producing that caliber. And I guess sales weren't good, and I just got this gun like 6 months ago, and I got a set of Lee dies and everything. I was ready to load some cast bullets and some bullets for it. I can't find ammo, I can't find brass. I have some 8mm brass back ordered one place, and I think Graf's just got a shipment in, but I'm still waiting because Graf still has, with this panic, 3-week delay, a month delay. So hopefully I'll be getting some brass and I can be reloading and doing some videos on this gun and that. Not too bad on cost. The brass was like 60 bucks or something for 100 pieces, so not too terrible, So it's still an affordable, and you can get bullets in the proper diameter, reasonably priced. 8mm is pretty common. Now, if we get into some of the more unusual guns, now, one gun that would have been tough is this Henry Martini. Well, like I said, because a big bunch of them have been imported, and the foreign copies and that, in the, I think it's 500, 477 Henry Martini or something. This is a foreign caliber, so in the United States, like in England, you probably could find reloading components and people that made these guns more in the nation or where the British influence was. This caliber is still loaded in some places and still used, I guess in Africa for hunting or whatever. And this is another surplus gun, a lot of them around, But now here's the rub. Because so many of them come in, fortunately, Lee makes a set of dies, and this caliber, this cartridge is so big at the base that it doesn't use the standard 7/8 diameter dies like most reloading dies. You have to go into, I think, the 1¼ thread, which is like, unfortunately, there are reloading presses made with a larger style for a 50 caliber machine gun, which is another popular cartridge that, you know, is kind of huge. I don't think anybody reloaded for that 30 years ago. But with the advent of big bore guns, reloading equipment is available to handle a larger cartridge like that. And so Lee makes dies. I think they're $85 for the set. You can probably get them made elsewhere, but like I know if you wanted the Gras, the 11mm Gras caliber, that is in RCBS catalog, but it's like upwards of $250 for that die set. Okay, it's not, like I said, it's something that's made, but they don't sell a lot of them, and so you're going to pay more. You got to kind of factor that in, like, you know, you can get these guns fairly reasonable, around the $400 mark, or if you want to go and get the best they have, you can pay upwards of $600 and get a real nice example. It's probably shootable, but then you have to bear in mind what you're going to spend. You're going to have to buy, like, for me to do this, I'm going to have to buy another press. I have to buy a set of dies, which are upwards of $100 and $80 ballpark. And also, brass is made. But the problem is, Jameson's a company that made brass for these older guns, and it was priced a little bit more reasonable than Bertram. But they've got some sort of military contract where they're producing something, and they've cut back on what they're producing. They're more or less fulfilling their government contracts, and a lot of the old obsolete calibers they made, which this Henry Martini is one of them, they haven't made that in a while. Bertram brass, I've seen you can find it on Midway Graphs for like $125 for 20 cases. So that's getting a little expensive. You can get the gun reasonable, workable. You can get the odd dies in that fairly reasonable. You know, you may have to buy another press, which is anywhere from $100 to $180. And then matter of fact, I got in a bidding war, and I bought 40 pieces of brass for this gun just today on an online auction. Paid $160 for them, and I was in the middle of constantly going back and forth with these people bidding for this. And a lot of the places that stocked it are out of it, unless you want to pay $125 for 20 rounds of Bertram brass. So you have to bear that in mind. The Verndle is another one. I think the bullets, see what's nice about it is a lot of these 11mm calibers, you can use the Lee mold, and I think it'll work in the Verndle, it'll work in the 7184 Mauser, and it'll work, I think, in the Gras rifle. They all have the same groove diameter, so the one bullet will cover a few cartridges, and it's about the appropriate military load. So one bullet mold will cover 3 different guns. The only problem is if you go with 4DCH or something, I forget the name of that company, they make custom dies, they can make you anything. If you get a set of dies for the Verndle, it's about $160, $180. You can get Bertram brass for about $65, $70 a box of 20. It ain't as terrible as the Henry Martini. And that's about what they get for the 43 Mauser brass also. And you gotta look at the outlay. Now you're talking like $200, $300 a caliber, and in brass you can get it or you can make it. Now making brass too for these guns, there are different ways of doing it, forming it from another caliber. it's tricky. Some of it's easy. Just take something very similar, run it up a die, and it'll be fine. To where you got to trim it, cut it, step form it, and form it again, and anneal it. So some brass fabrication is not as easy as others, depending on the caliber. Okay, so that's another factor. If you can't get it made by Bertram, Buffalo Arms does form and make a lot of different caliber brass, like the 8x50 Mannlicher they make. There's several others. The Dutch Beaumont, which is another gun, I have a few of those. That's kind of tricky on the brass. It's got to be formed, or you can go with Bertram, and I really don't know what the price is, or if they make it. Now, when going to black powder cartridge guns, the reason I kind of went, I didn't have an interest in them, but I went into the Springfield Trapdoors. And the reason is, the guns are fairly common. You can find shootable guns, usually in the $700 price range, maybe less, down to $500. If you're getting anything below $500, you got parts guns or guns that are in pretty bad condition. The guns in nice collectible condition, depending on the rarity. I've seen at auctions go in the thousands, from 12 to who knows what. So it's a common gun. If you use your smarts, you can get a shootable one, you know, if you're not into collector's values. And it's a common caliber. It's still made today. You used to be able to get brass. I found out that most of the supplies of 4570 brass are sold out now, along with a lot of other ammunition and reloading components. I guess people are panicking. They're going to change the law and restrict reloading components. So even something like the 4570, which is, there are replica guns, Sharps and that still use them. There are lever action guns. I know people hunt with 4570 to this day. It's still made commercially in rifles, modern production guns. So it's more common. Set of dies, $40-some. Okay, brass, I think you can get 50 pieces for still like about $40 or something. I'm not quite sure. I know Starline's a bit more reasonable because they crank it out, and but everybody's sold out of it, you know. So it's more of an economical thing. You know, you could probably, I'm saying that the price range, you're probably going to pay more, a little more for a trapdoor that's shootable. The cost-conscious people would take like the Henry Martini, which they could get for hundreds less, but you can load 4570 with a standard press. The dies are way less expensive, like half the price, and the brasses, it used to be readily available, maybe in a year or so. When production catches up, it'll be back down. And also, there's a ton of bullet molds made for the 4570. You have a very wide range of choices on stock items without having to get custom molds. Some of these old guns, if you want to replicate the exact ammunition, you're probably going to have a custom mold made, which generally doubles the price of a good mold. You know, usually 60, anywhere from 60 to 100. A custom mold is going to cost you anywhere, depending on who you buy it from 150 to 200, depending on the company's policies. But that's something else you got to factor in when you're looking into shooting these guns. You know, like I said, yeah, I can get this gun fairly reasonable and get a deal on it, but it's going to cost me another $400 to make ammunition to shoot in it. There were people commercially producing ammunition for the Henry Martinis because of the ones that come in, and you know, 4570 is still commercially produced, or you can go to Cowboy Action. There are places that reload ammunition specifically for cowboy action shooting, and there's a few companies out there doing that. and they make the different old Western calibers, which 45-70 is one of them. And you have that option too if you don't want to get into reloading. It would be more easier to get ammo for the 45-70 or something close than it would for the Henry Martini. The Mannlicher or the Verndle is like, that's a long reach. So these are things you got to kind of think about when you set about this. You know, there's costs. It could be, you know, it's going to cost me more than what I paid for the rifle to get 40 rounds of ammo to shoot it. You know, basically it's kind of a message there.